Food is one of the strongest predictors of how your body and brain will function over several decades. Every choice you make at the dinner table either works to steady your energy and protect your neurons, or it does the exact opposite. While some foods support long-term memory, there are several common and familiar items that, when eaten in excess, can spike your blood sugar and drive chronic inflammation. Unfortunately, these detrimental health effects eventually reach the brain, harming your cognition and your ability to focus on daily tasks. To understand the gravity of this situation, we are looking at the professional insights of Samantha Coogan, a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and director at the University of Nevada. We have analyzed the scientific research to uncover the small but critical dietary changes you can make to protect your mind as you age. If you have been feeling a mental fog or noticed a drain in your focus lately, pay very close attention to the common foods that might be sabotaging your brain health. The first category of concern involves ultra-processed snacks, which include the packaged chips, cookies, candy, and cupcakes that are found in almost every pantry. These everyday foods are often loaded with refined starches, added sugars, and industrial fats that experts link to significant blood sugar swings and low-grade inflammation. The impact of these snacks is not just a theory. It is backed by a massive longitudinal study of nearly 11,000 adults. This research discovered that people who get more than 20% of their daily calories from ultra-processed foods experience a 28% faster rate of overall cognitive decline compared to those with a lower intake. Even more startling is that these individuals also saw a 25% faster rate of decline in executive function, which involves complex decision-making and focus. Reaching that 20% calorie threshold is much easier than most people realize. Just a couple of small chip bags, a single candy bar, and one soda in a single day can put your brain health at significant risk. To protect your mind, experts suggest keeping these snacks as occasional treats and filling the gap with whole food choices like apples with nut butter or yogurt with fresh berries. The second red flag in our diet might come as a surprise to many health-conscious eaters: canned tuna and other high-mercury fish. While fish is generally seen as a healthy protein, certain types can be dangerous if consumed too frequently. Samantha Coogan explains that you should ideally limit your intake of canned tuna to just once per week. This same rule applies to other high-mercury fish such as king mackerel, shark, swordfish, and tilefish. These species are predators with long lifespans, which allows them to accumulate significant levels of mercury over time. If these fish are eaten in large quantities over a long period, the mercury can build up in the body and lead to serious disruptions in the central nervous system. This toxic buildup can impair neurotransmitters and potentially lead to the development of Alzheimer's disease down the road. However, you do not have to give up seafood entirely. When eaten in moderation, about 4 ounces once per week, the mercury is usually absorbed by the digestive tract before it ever reaches the brain. A safer alternative is to swap in canned salmon, which is lower on the food chain and shorter-lived, allowing it to provide essential omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D without the high mercury risk. Cured meats represent the third major category of foods that can drain your focus and damage your long-term brain health. This includes popular staples like bacon, salami, hot dogs, and various cold cuts used for sandwiches. These meats are typically preserved with nitrites or nitrates and are packed with high levels of sodium and saturated fat. This specific combination is a primary driver of high blood pressure and low-grade inflammation. A large cohort study involving nearly 500,000 adults found a terrifying link between processed meats and neurological decline. The research showed that each additional 25 grams of processed meat per day, which is roughly the equivalent of just one slice of bacon, was associated with a 44% higher risk of dementia. This does not mean you have to eliminate these meats entirely to stay healthy, but they should be viewed as occasional indulgence foods. Aim to get the majority of your protein from safer sources like low-mercury fish, poultry, beans, and nuts to ensure your brain stays sharp as you age. The fourth area of concern involves the fats we use in our daily cooking, specifically margarine and butter. Historically, margarine was made with partially hydrogenated oils, which are artificial trans fats known to lead to poor cognitive performance. While the FDA has worked to remove these artificial oils from the food supply, Samantha Coogan warns that we must still be vigilant about saturated fat content. Saturated fats, which are solid at room temperature, may impair memory and learning abilities when consumed in large quantities. These fats can increase cholesterol, systemic inflammation, and insulin resistance, all of which have a direct and negative impact on the brain's internal environment. Expert advice suggests limiting your overall saturated fat consumption to less than 10% of your total daily calories. When shopping for margarine or butter, you should always check the nutrition label for 0 grams of trans fat and look for products with the lowest possible saturated fat content to better support your long-term memory and recall functions. Fried foods like French fries, fried chicken, and donuts are the fifth category that can lead to premature brain aging. When starch-heavy foods are dropped into hot oil, the fats oxidize and create substances called advanced glycation end products. Research shows that these compounds lead to increased low-grade inflammation throughout the body. A prospective cohort study recently found that a higher intake of fried foods is consistently associated with poorer cognitive performance in midlife. Furthermore, the chemical acrylamide, which is found in many fried foods like potatoes, has been linked to neuroinflammation and subsequent mood changes. Studies have shown that frequent intake of fried potatoes is associated with a 12% higher risk of anxiety and a 7% higher risk of depression. You can still enjoy the flavor of crispy foods by altering your cooking methods. For example, soaking potato strips in room temperature water for 10 minutes before cooking can significantly reduce acrylamide levels across all frying methods, providing a safer way to enjoy a favorite snack without the neurological side effects. Finally, we must address the impact of refined carbohydrates like white bread. Refined carbs are usually made from white flour with added sugars and include items like baked goods and white rice. Much like high-mercury fish, consuming these items in large quantities can lead to long-term health impacts. Samantha Coogan points out that long-term consumption of refined carbohydrates can disrupt the gut-brain axis and increase overall inflammation in the body. This inflammatory response may lead to memory decline, difficulty making complex decisions, and issues with social or spatial awareness. While you do not need to toss out every slice of white bread, it is critical to balance your intake with whole grain, high-fiber foods. Whole grains provide the fiber necessary for digestive health, which in turn supports the gut-brain axis and improves overall brain function. The key to maintaining your focus and protecting your neurons over decades is dietary balance and the conscious choice to limit these inflammatory foods. The science of nutrition makes it clear that what we eat today determines how well our brains will function tomorrow. By being mindful of these 6 categories, you are taking a massive step toward preserving your cognitive health. It is not about perfect elimination, but about making informed trades that prioritize your brain's fuel. If you choose to limit ultra-processed snacks and high-mercury fish while being careful with fried foods and refined carbs, you are essentially investing in your future self. Your focus and memory are your most valuable assets, and they deserve the protection that a balanced whole food diet provides. If you are serious about taking control of your health and protecting your mind from the hidden dangers of the modern diet, then you have come to the right place. We spend hundreds of hours analyzing medical research and expert dietitian advice so that you can have the facts you need to thrive. Our goal is to empower you with practical knowledge about human nutrition and longevity. To make sure you never miss another deep dive into the foods that determine your health and focus, make sure to click that subscribe button right now. By joining this community, you are choosing to prioritize your brain health and stay informed. I want to hear from you in the comments today. Which of these familiar foods surprised you the most? And which one will you be cutting back on starting tomorrow? Let's start a conversation about our mental clarity and share tips for better eating habits.